Thank you.
How are you engaged?
In Sydney, Aranesh Sepp from Mahasan DV organisation, being the founder, and also I haven't seen Rena here, but she's probably snuck in, Rena Jetty, who is the elected councillor at the Shire Council. First, I'd like to acknowledge all of those. Thank you very much for coming and supporting this.
प्लेट नहीं है
कोई बात नहीं।
Yeah, it was amazing. Thank you so much.
परफॉर्मेंस करी जिसमें टोटल इंडिया के ड्रेसेस में परफॉर्मेंस करा।
ये तो बंगाल से।
And by the way, you're looking fabulous. That's a compliment to me.
Thank God for makeup. Achieve on the work. Just give water bottles up.
More, and we have the Detective Chief Inspector.
Thank you. So I'm a founder and president of one of the women's organization called Powerful and Forward Women. We founded in 2020 and we really more focus on helping the women in the community, also the men as well. We do a lot of fundraising events, like we help the Hills Like Alive, Hills Winter Sleep Out, and the more we are the supporters for the Sanctuary Women's Shelter. And thank you to Carol Harding for always really giving an opportunity to us to help the organization. The mission of the organization is to promote and bring together women in business and women in community and supporting each other. We have a Facebook page too, which is Powerful Empowered Women Community. That's our Facebook page is there. We also have a Facebook group, which we have around 1,300 women are there in that group. And this is the really much needed session we wanted to really host today. I really want to stress more on the fact as a disclaimer, the movies we are going to see after 6:30, though the actors are Indians, it's not particularly we are talking about Indians. We are talking in general for every community, like it's quite common everywhere. So don't take it as a we are just focusing on it is happening only in the Indian community, it's everywhere. So I really wanted to stress that fact, and I hope we'll get some good message from the different people. I want to say thank you to Naomi for the fantastic work you are doing here in the Hills community, and welcome to Hills. And thank you, Chris, and sorry, I forgot your name. Michael and
Crystal.
yeah. So thank you so much for joining us and fantastic support to us. Thank you. I would like to invite on this. Can I invite? I want to say thank you. Is Peter there? Oh. I want to say thank you to the Hillshire Mayor Peter Ganjemi. Thank you for supporting us with this event. Without Hillshire Council support, this wouldn't have been happening. So, thank you so much.
And also, I just want to acknowledge some other guests tonight. So, Mehul, Sumaya and Patty Montella in Sydney. Aranesh Sepp from Mahasan DV organisation, being the founder. And also, I haven't seen Rena here, but she's probably snuck in, Rena Jetty, who is the elected councillor at the Shire Council. First, I'd like to acknowledge all of those. Thank you very much for coming and supporting this event.
I do apologise for being a few minutes late. I should know best the traffic around this part of Castle Hill, and I report out myself. But just last night or yesterday, the state government decided they're going to lift housing targets in this area, and I was talking all day about the potential traffic impacts of that, and it hasn't even started, and I'm already being hit by it. But anyway, I'm very pleased to be here for this very special event in terms of breaking the silence, unmasking domestic violence, this special movie screening. Can I just firstly acknowledge a few people? Can I acknowledge Pradabana Charlene and everyone from Powerful and Empowered Women? Thank you for putting this evening on. Naomi Moore and your team from the Hills Police Area Command, and of course Pankaj and everyone from Euphony Films. I want to thank each of those organisations for what they do more broadly for the community. Whenever there is a wonderful cause in the hills, powerful empowered women are there to support it and to donate funds to wonderful causes, whether it's back to school drives, Beyond Blue, or supporting the sanctuary. Powerful empowered women, part of it, your generosity knows no bounds, and so thank you for everything that you do. The Hills Police Area Command, thank you for keeping us safe and for how engaged you are as a community and how engaged you are with all stakeholders, and whether it's youth or with wonderful causes like tonight. We know that we're so thankful to have such a strong relationship. And Pankaj and the whole team from Euphony Films, thank you for lending your talents to this evening, and we're looking forward to seeing the 3 short films, Migrant Bride, Aussie Victim and Broken Shelter. I want to thank each and every one of you here for your commitment to eradicating domestic violence in the hills. I feel so fortunate to be the mayor of a council in which our community are so committed to eradicating domestic violence, just as the key stakeholders here tonight are working night and day on that cause as well. Domestic violence is a terrible crime which is unfortunately on the rise in the hills. In the years 1998 to 2002, 105 domestic violence incidents occurred in the hills per annum, but by 2018 to 2022 this had tripled to 305 per annum. And these are the statistics that we can't allow to continue in our community. Domestic violence takes on many forms, including dowry abuse. The United Nations Division for the Advancement of Women defines dowry-related violence as any act of violence or harassment associated with the giving or receiving of dowry at any time before, during or after marriage. Dowry abuse is not specific to any particular culture and can happen to anyone, just as part of what was saying before. The 2018 Parliamentary Inquiry into the practice of dowry and incidents of dowry abuse in Australia found strong evidence that dowry abuse is a growing problem in this country. I'm pleased to see that tonight's program and the short videos significantly feature dowry abuse and of course shining a light on domestic violence more broadly. As a council, we're very committed to doing what we can to eradicating domestic violence in this community. We're members of the Hills Domestic Violence Prevention Network and we host the meetings at council each month. We recently partnered with the Hills Domestic Violence Prevention Network and of course the Hills Police Area Command on the Stop Domestic Violence campaign, which we're getting that message out in the community with increased signage. We see it in pubs and clubs, we see it at bus shelters and shopping centres, and of course we look forward to this rolling out continually in the hills. As a council, we also have our community grants program. It only has 4 target areas and one of them is preventing and supporting people who have been impacted by domestic violence. And of course, last year we gave $40,000 to the sanctuary, which was our largest ever community grant we've given as a council. And we just had our annual community grants round close just earlier this week, and we've got a number of applications pending from organisations looking to do fantastic work in the domestic violence space. So we look forward to that continuing as well. And of course, as a council, we're very proud to support events that shine a light on domestic violence in the community, such as tonight. And of course, when Prada gave me the call and said, is there anything you can do to give us this venue at a very discounted rate? Of course, as a council, we immediately said yes, and we're proud to help. So just simply wanted to finish off by again thanking Powerful Empowered Women and Prada, Euphony, and of course the Hills Police Area Command for putting on this evening. This is a most important cause in our community, so I really thank you for taking the time out to be here this evening, and as always, if there is anything that the council or myself can do more in this space, please don't hesitate to let me know. We're with you on this journey. Thank you so much.
Right now I would like to invite Detective Chief Inspector and Crime Manager, and also Michael Heiss, who's Senior Constable and DV Officer. So there's stairs just coming here, and Munta, if we could have the PowerPoint, please.
Good evening, and thank you for inviting me tonight, Prataba, to what is a really important community event. It's not lost on me that it's Domestic Violence Awareness Month, and we've been to quite a number of events, and it's really encouraging to see, you know, the community coming out and supporting and being part of this awareness campaign. Breaking the silence on domestic violence, I think, is important to us. Domestic and family violence is a priority to myself as the commander at the Hills, and it's one more broadly that is a priority to our Commissioner and the rest of the New South Wales Police Force. Silent victims is one that she has clearly prioritised, and I think it's fair to say in many instances domestic violence victims are often silent victims. At some point in their lives, almost every Australian will experience some form of domestic and family violence, either directly or indirectly. And while domestic and family violence is the most underreported crime type, because the perpetrator often knows the victim intimately through a long-term, close or developing relationship, a rise in the number of reports over the past 10 years shows this form of abusive behaviour is increasingly no longer seen as a private matter. So if we can, looking at this first slide here, I'd like to share with you some of the statistics on domestic and family violence in New South Wales. This has come from Boxer in 2023. The state average for time a police crew spends at the scene of a domestic incident is 43 minutes, and we are responding to a domestic violence incident every 4 minutes. That's across New South Wales. Domestic violence assault has increased by 6.7%. In the past 2 years, and breach apprehended domestic violence order has also increased by 6%. In 2023, New South Wales Police Force recorded 35,255 domestic assaults. 65% of domestic violence victims are female. In 2023, there were 31 domestic violence related homicides, and of that 16 were women, 12 were men, and 3 were children. Sadly, it takes a lot for a victim to come forward and report domestic violence. We are told that they can experience up to 26 incidents before they'll be brave enough to speak up. Can we go to the next slide, please? I want to share with you some of the local data and statistics reported in terms of domestic violence within this area that we live at the Hills. The most frequent offences seen in the Hills are assault, harassment or intimidation, contravening an apprehended domestic violence order, and malicious damage to property in a domestic situation. In the past 12 months, the Hills Police Area Command have investigated just under 300 domestic related incidents. Did I say 300 or 3,000? 3,000. An average of 8 per day. And since the 1st of January, we've investigated 150 domestic related assaults. So over the first 5 months of this year, 150 assaults have occurred in the family home. This is slightly less than the 173 that we saw in the same period of 2023, but I think you'll agree that 150 assaults is far too many. 78% of those 150 assaults in 117 instances of that 150, offenders were arrested. So we've gone into the family home, and that's about 78% of occasions we have arrested the offender for those offences. The reasons we may not have is we didn't have enough evidence or the victim wasn't willing to provide a statement. So there are reasons, and we scrutinise all of those incidents to make sure that we are taking action where we can. We often get asked questions about, well, how often is alcohol or drugs or mental health impacting upon these matters? And as much as I can't give full data on that, I can tell you that of those 150 assaults, 42 of them had alcohol related. In just under a third of all incidents, and not just assaults, of those 3,000 reports, in under a third of them, children or young people were present or involved. The majority of victims that we see in the Hills are female, and they're aged between 40 and 44. If you can move to the next slide, please. Something that Prada has spoken about, and it's something that is very contemporary and very new, is around coercive control. It will be becoming an offence from the 1st of July. And that offence relates to an adult who engages in abusive behaviour toward a current or former intimate partner that is designed to coerce or control that person. The offence will not be retrospective, so if things have occurred prior to the 1st of July, we won't be able to take action for it. It's things that happen post the 1st of July. And if someone is convicted of this offence, we're looking at a maximum penalty of 7 years imprisonment. If we go to the next slide, we'll have a look at what some of those behaviours might be. So examples of abusive behaviour within that coercive control environment: damage or destruction of property, depriving of liberties and daily activities, isolation, stalking, harassment and monitoring them, physical violence, economic and financial abuse, harm to another, harm to a child, intimidation, injury, death to an animal, shames, degrades and humiliates. Research tells us that 99% of intimate partner homicides are preceded by coercive behaviours. So this is why this is so important, and it's why legislation has now been enacted for us to be able to address this and to be able to take action. I guess you're wondering, what can you do? What I would ask of you tonight is that if you are a victim of domestic violence, or if you know of someone who is a victim of domestic violence, whether it's you're a witness to it, whether you're a family member who is aware of it, a friend or a neighbour that hears it, I ask you to report it. I ask you to pick up the phone, call the police and report it, and let us come out and work out what is going on in that household. You can do that via 000 if it's an emergency. You can call Castle Hill Police Station, or you can call your local police station if you're not living in this area. Crime Stoppers, or also the police assistance line. You can use, as you can see there, that 4th point. It's a really contemporary one, it's a really important one in my view, and I'd like to see a show of hands if anyone in the room has heard of the Empower You app. A couple. Okay. So just to provide a little bit of background to that, this app is designed to allow a victim or a potential victim of domestic violence to record details of an incident. So let's go back to where I said a moment ago that it might take 26 incidents for someone to report it. If you can imagine retrospectively trying to capture the evidence that related to those historical matters, which we would rely upon for an apprehended violence order or potentially to charge someone, it becomes very, very difficult if you're relying only on your memory. So this app is designed, targeted towards those people who do take so long to come forward. There's an ability to catalogue incidents over a period of time, which will be important for capturing conduct, which may be relative to coercive control legislation. There's a diary function where victims can document incidents, capture photos and upload images. And the diary entry can be emailed to a trusted friend or police, or used in court. It's especially important with this new coercive control legislation that I've just spoken about. The app also gives victims of domestic violence access to current information about support services and provides a virtual safety network for victims who can establish this via the app. It's easily downloaded from the App Store and Google Play Store, and it's available in 11 languages. So if I'd be pleased today if you walk away, having taken that as a tool for your kit, for yourself, or for those that you know may be victims of domestic violence, to help build that courage for them to gather the evidence that they need, and ultimately that's what they need to do, and then to report to police to allow us to take the action that we very much need to take. What will police do? And I think sometimes people ask, well, what are the police doing about this? And I'll talk in a minute about the fact that this is not predominantly a police issue. We have a role to play in addressing domestic violence in our community, but we're not a silo. We can't. It's not a one-dimensional solution here. This has to be everybody chips in, everyone involves themselves in a holistic approach to managing this systemic social issue. So police, what I can tell you the police will do is, when making a call to report domestic violence, that initial report will be taken by General Duties Police. So that's my uniformed police who are working on the cars day and night. They'll take the call and they'll respond. So whether it's a walk into the station or you're calling police out to your home, those are the officers that will respond. Appropriate action. This may involve applying for an apprehended violence order, charging the offender, and consider imposing bail conditions or even refusing bail if the matter is that serious. It's important to note that the victim's consent is not required for police to take action in certain circumstances, and the decision to apply for an AVO or charge an offender ultimately rests with the police. Every reported domestic incident, this is very much a focus at the Hills, so every reported domestic incident is analysed and reviewed firstly by my specialist domestic violence team, so that's Michael and Crystal who are here. They're part of that team. They review these every single morning. Then myself and the rest of my senior leadership team, which Chris Laird is a part of, we sit down and we then, again, another layer of review of every domestic incident that is reported in our command. So then, where necessary, specialist domestic violence officers or detectives may take carriage of that matter, depending upon the complexity and the seriousness of it. Additionally, police assist victims, and both Crystal and Michael both do a lot of this. They'll support victims at court. So WDV-CAS will also do that, but we support victims through that court process. We understand how challenging that can be, and we provide that support to them to ensure that they have the confidence to appear at court and to be out and help prepare them to give evidence. We attend, as mentioned, through WDV-CAS and other meetings, some interagency meetings to discuss particular cases and to work out how we can further support victims. We prioritise repeat victims and we target repeat offenders. On a daily basis, we conduct AVO compliance checks to ensure that parties are adhering to the conditions of the orders and the bail conditions relative to AVO charges or, DV charges or AVOs. And ultimately the picture I'm trying to paint for you is that Police at the Hills will do everything that we can to protect victims and to break the cycle of violence in family units, but we can't do it alone. So we are carrying a big burden here, and that is our job. We make no bones about the fact that we will target domestic violence offenders through our STMP process. They don't know where we'll be or when we'll turn up, and we will make sure that we make it difficult for them to offend. Equally, we will support our victims as much as we possibly can, but domestic violence is one of the many functions that we undertake, as I'm sure you appreciate. But we do dedicate an incredible amount of time to it. Because there is no single solution to stop domestic violence, and as I've mentioned multiple times tonight, and glad that you're here to hear it, it's certainly not the sole responsibility of police. We have and will continue to work closely with stakeholders across all levels of government and the private sector to ensure the best possible proactive strategies targeting domestic violence offenders and helping to protect victims. Together, we are changing the way people of New South Wales respond to domestic violence, and I believe our continued efforts will see a further shift in community perception and more victims feeling empowered to speak up. Thank you for inviting me tonight. This is just an overview, I guess, of what the role of the police is and some statistics just to whet your appetite, I guess, a little bit before you listen to and see the video, and then we'll have some panel discussion later on. But it's pleasing to see, you all coming out, and as I said, you may not be a victim of domestic violence yourself, but you may be someone who can support somebody else who is, whether it's through education, and nights like this are important to educate. And we come out to these events because we see the importance of it. Our time's valuable as well, but we believe so much in being able to share the messages, to educate, to make people aware, to help us all work together collectively to impact domestic violence in this great area that we all live in. So enjoy the night. We'll come back up again shortly and help to answer some questions that you may have. Thank you.
From Break the Silence Domestic Violence Awareness movie screenings. Punkage is actually the founder of Euphony Films, and I would also like to invite, Nellie Sinha is the Multicultural Community Liaison from the Crime Prevention Unit at Burwood Police Area Command. So if you would come up now, that would be wonderful. Thank you. Just really encourage you just, there's so many times that you don't know that people might be going through things. And just one particular point, if someone drops off your radar, look out for them, ring them, contact them. There's a reason that they've dropped off the radar quite often. So it's so important to hear what people can do. Thank you.
Good evening all. Thank you for having me here today, and I am extremely proud to be here today. Thanks Pankaj for inviting me. Today I represent my two other colleagues, Rachna Soni and Georgina Zanadine. We were the three musketeers who were part of the dowry abuse short videos that you'll be seeing in a little while. And Pankaj is the person who actually made it come to life, gave it feelings, and gave it a meaning basically. So at the moment we are still, it's a long road, domestic violence. Pankaj gave me only 2 minutes, all right. So it's a very long road and we all have to work together. As ma'am said, just the police can't do it. Everybody has to come together and help this cause. Without further ado, I'll get Pankaj on the stage. That's all right, that's okay. That's all right.
I think there's so much to do.
Yes, yes, that's all right.
But I really appreciate everybody taking time out and coming, today and going to be watching these videos. And I would like to thank, Powerful Empowered Community, my wonderful team at TAP, the project, the Dowry Abuse Project, Nelisina, Georgina, Zinedine, Rachna Soni. Is she in the house?
No.
Tawfiq Ahmed. Yes, and all my cast and crew members from the first two films, DAP project. We started that in 2019, concluded in 2020, but I think it's still going on and has become so relevant, with ma'am presenting the numbers, and the numbers are, there is so much work to do, and I feel we are so time poor. Yes. I would also like to thank media, respected mayor, everybody who is on the panel tonight, all my cast and crew members at Euphony Films who support me endlessly, all my friends, all my network, all my associates who are always there cheering for our work. Some names who are also present here tonight: Harmohan Walia ji, Harjot Singh from KH Brothers, Shantana Deka, Pramod Bhanushali ji. If I missed any names, I know you'll be catching me backstage, I'm sure. Yeah, but thank you, I love you, and I'm so blessed. I'm basically Korean, how can I forget this one? But thank you, I'll leave the stage for the videos to talk now.
Can I just add something?
Please.
I just wanted to take this opportunity to mention that people ask me, you've done the videos, New South Wales Police have done those two beautiful videos, what are you doing about the education for the police side of things? Since the videos were done, that was about 3 years ago, there's been a lot of community education. We go out to the community with different organizations, DD services or otherwise, and we do little sessions with them just to understand the cultural nuance that this particular, I'm specifically right now talking about the Indian subcontinent and how it plays out. I've done a training module which is going to come up on what we call the internal online training system, we call it PEAT, and police officers will have to do a quick online training and understand a bit of the nuance so that if they need additional information, that is always available anyway. Thank you. I just wanted to add that.
Thank you. And very timely, so I'll take the notes.
Yeah.
Okay, so Powerful Empowered Community, Pratibha Bhanushali ji for giving this platform to us. So thank you, Pratibha ji. New South Wales Police, Hills Council, Blacktown Council, Blacktown Arts for funding my third short film, thank you, and also my fourth short film, which is currently in the post-production stage. Naomi ma'am, Christopher Wade, and your fabulous team at the Castle Hill Police Station and Hills Police Area Command. Blacktown Police Area Command, Burwood Police Area Command, thank you. Okay, so Mansik Gandhi for helping us with the press release. Media and Associates, DC Australia, Hagwan Balaji, Shantini Deka, CMRC, Harman Foundation, Radio Kehte Sunte, KS Brothers, Screen Australia, Natraj Academy, Pink Umbrella, Vaki, Pramod Bhanushali. My friends, colleagues and family for always supporting me. And disclaimer, domestic violence is not limited to any demographics, culture or gender. Thank you. Thank you.
Thank you. So what we'll do now is we'll actually look at each of the films back to back. And just a reminder again that we do have tissues at the front. I might just put them in the middle. So I would just encourage you that these will be impacting, and if you do happen to see someone near you or you hear someone near you, please do feel free to share.
Domestic Violence Prevention Network, and very passionate about raising awareness about DV in our own community. I don't want to steal Naomi's thunder, so I'm not going to talk past it anymore. If you're experiencing DV yourselves, then report it as well. Reach out and get the help that you need. This year we've seen a number of DV events, all aimed at raising awareness within the community and educating the community about what DV is, and particularly around coercive control, which is not well understood. This month we've had a number of events, being Domestic Violence Prevention Awareness Month.
Who is the senior counsel. Thank you.
Weeks. And to tell you the truth, before I even arrived, I was being educated on the amount of domestic violence in this country. And I want to offer a different perspective this evening that relates to not only the victims, but those in law enforcement, in the mayor's office, which I have to say, rarely do I see a mayor stay this long at an event, which shows your level of commitment. I honor you for that.
I always say that.
Beautiful. So not only the victims, but those who serve and protect, those who help, the family members, and as we just saw, the children, everyone is affected by violence in so many ways. So I want to offer a different perspective this evening in taking a look at how we can actually stop the cycle of violence. Nowhere are we taught, either at home, at school, how to manage our mind and emotions. And as you saw in those very compelling films, that stress is at the root of it. Addiction is at the root of it. And until we learn how to do that, how to manage the mind and emotions so that we can have equanimity from within, we can be in our right mind, I don't see how we're going to end the cycle of violence. But the good news is, through our breath, we can release the stress, heal the trauma, come back to the stillness from within, break free of emotional patterns that are toxic and harmful to ourselves and to others. We can increase our confidence. We can cultivate resilience. And we can live a happy and fulfilled life and bring others along with us. I have been doing this for over 30 years. And what some of my students in the room may not know, I also was a victim of domestic abuse, emotional abuse. It comes in so many forms, doesn't it? And I wasn't doing the breathing and meditation techniques at the time. I didn't realize the impact that it was having on me and my family. But once I came to this knowledge, wow, it was a game changer. And now I'm able to help so many people in so many ways be free as well. Not only of the violence that we see behind closed doors when maybe you show up and have to do so much to help people get out of that situation, but we see it every day in different ways because the seed of violence begins with hate. Not having that sense of belongingness with ourselves, not being connected to ourselves, not being our true selves. So I have taught people from every walk of life, all over the world, how to have those beautiful benefits that we all want, that we spoke about. And I thought after such compelling films, you might like to take just a few minutes and such busy days to come back to your center, relax a little bit before we continue. Would that be helpful?
Yep.
Of course it would be. Okay, so all you need to do, and we only have a few minutes because the schedule is full and rich with information that is so helpful and so educational for each and every one of us. And we'll spend more time if you'd like to talk. I'll be available afterward and I can tell you more about our programs and what we can do for you and for those who you care so much about. So tonight, how about you sit back, relax for a few minutes, and we're going to close our eyes and just do a little relaxation from within, because it's our inner world that determines our experience of the outer world. Are you with me?
Within the community and acknowledge the presence of so I must congratulate Pankaj for actually such beautiful films, beautifully in the sense beautifully made, and such awareness that has been spread by these films. Clearly, domestic violence is a disturbing crime. And I say specifically disturbing because these perpetrators of these crimes are those from whom you would normally expect protection and love. You would normally expect them to be loving you, but they are the perpetrators of these crimes. And so it makes it even more disturbing. So we really hope to have a spirited discussion about this, and I'd like to draw upon the experiences of all these esteemed panelists today. So let's jump in straight away and go through. I'll endeavor to potentially ask questions individually rather than leaving it open to the floor. And if anyone answers the question and like to chip in, please feel free. And after we end the discussion, we'll have a floor for a few Q&A sessions as well. I'd like to start with Michael. Michael, you've been part of the police. Clearly, you're in the front line in this fight against domestic violence. So why don't we start with the basic fundamental question of really what domestic violence is? And I ask the question because the perception around DV is more so physical abuse. My understanding is it goes way beyond that too. Could you just talk a little about that?
Sure, thank you. I think we saw a lot of different forms of abuse in those videos. I mean, psychological abuse, emotional abuse. One thing, there was a bit of property damage in there when he stepped on the phone in one of the videos. It's a wide-ranging issue. It could also extend to perhaps affecting one's pets to hold a sorry, I made some points earlier. Animal abuse by harming one's pets, stalking and harassment. Stalking would be a physical following of a person around a location. Harassment by, similar to the video where the person was continually monitoring or ringing up, that's a form of harassment, but also threats as well. So it's a wide-ranging issue. We try and take action where we can. Some of those offences are charging for an assault, charging for damage to property, charging for intimidation, which is those threats. There was a bit of an inference towards sexual assault that we saw in that video where the partner came home drunk and tried to force him upon his wife. Obviously there's no inherent right to assault someone, and partners can deny consent in relation to sexual assault, and that is a crime. So sometimes in relation to, there's some cultural issues where that's not necessarily known, and that's something that we need to address. But also we have abusive behaviour coming on through the coercive control legislation as of the 1st of July. So that's going to be important in relation to some of these behaviours that aren't necessarily an offence at the moment, that will become an offence as a result of that legislation.
Thank you, Michael, for that. So clearly what I hear is physical abuse is probably just one of the type of abuse that you would expect in a domestic violence situation. But that, according to me, poses many other questions. Because if the abuse is beyond physical, how do you identify the victims of such abuse, especially if they don't come up and report it? So, Carol, I'd like to draw your experience in this. I know that you run the shelter for women in the hills, and clearly you have a lot of experience dealing with victims. So, in situations like these, when abuse goes beyond physical, how would you attempt to identify such victims, and probably not just identify but also intervene in situations like these?
Well, I've worked with women for over 30 years in this situation. A lot of them don't identify that it is abuse when it isn't physical. But sometimes they get to a point where they talk to somebody like myself or somebody like the staff of the sanctuary, and they start to open up about what's been happening, and then it gives you an opportunity to say, well, do you realise that this is domestic violence? He hasn't hit you, he hasn't harmed you physically, but he has financially abused you, he has threatened you, he has threatened your children. That's one that actually often is the link that makes mums decide they have to do something. We saw that with that little girl. When that little girl became threatened, mum said that's enough. And a lot of them, that's the trigger to say, I can't stand this for myself, but I certainly can't see it happen to my children. And so that's another indication. But I found there's a thing called a power and control wheel, and if you show that to a woman, it identifies a whole lot of ways that people, that someone is abusing them, not necessarily physically. And a lot of women will sit in front of that and say, that is just what is happening. And then they start to realise that they need to have help in that situation as well. So I think the threat to a child, I mean, we talk about threat to animals, that's also for some women that's extremely hurtful because they love their animal, and often the perpetrator will kill the animal, and that's the profound. But we've also seen, tragically, lately, men killing children, and that is the utmost destroying thing for a woman to have her children killed, and she has to live, because generally speaking they kill the child, kill themselves, and she has to live without their child, and that would be the utmost destroying thing for women. So, and I've worked with women in all these facets of over 30 odd years I've been working with women that have faced all of these sorts of traumas. But to have someone to talk to and then to start to say to them, we can do something about it, we can talk to someone, we can go to the police, we can get something done about it, is often very liberating for that person to know there's someone on their side. The thing I really want to stress is we have to break the silence. If you see, hear anything, it's worth reporting. If you're wrong, it doesn't matter. But if you're right 10 times, 9 out of 10 times you will be right,
that woman then is released from that trauma because somebody has taken enough notice to see that she's not safe, and then someone needs to step in and do something about it. So often we heard, oh, it's not our business, shut the door, whatever. And that's how it was when I first started working with women. It was behind closed doors. Fortunately now, it doesn't have to be behind closed doors, but it's all our responsibility to make sure that it doesn't stay behind closed doors.
No, thank you so much for your thoughts, Carol. That was really good to hear. Some things that stood out for me was when you mentioned that there are victims who don't realize that they are actually victims of domestic violence or abuse, correct?
That's right.
And yeah, so just carrying on with that same thought, I'd like to ask Arunesh. Arunesh, I think manages Mahasangh, and you've got experience with helping victims of that domestic violence. Do you believe there are cultural aspects that influence domestic violence, and especially leading on from what Carol mentioned, a patriarchal system maybe, where there is a dominating man and a woman would just consider that to be a normal social element and not realize that it is violence?
Thank you, Mehul, for giving this mic and asking this question. Very important question, actually. I'll clear a few minds here with the answers which I have got for the question. First of all, about Mahasangh. Mahasangh is a social integration platform. We do a lot of things, but domestic violence prevention is one of our areas where we work. And we work a little different to what other organizations do. We are mostly on networking. We push right buttons at the right time for victims and make things that ensure, and then we review the things, how things are happening. So with our program, Youth Office, Parliament put us in their honors register as well. The work we have done, they have put us in 2 times in honors register. One for domestic violence, second for other social work which we do. Now, to your question, culture doesn't break people. Culture binds people. It is the culture we forget. When we forget our culture, that breaks the society. If I speak about my culture from where I come, women are worshipped. So, but all the powers which God has are vested with women, not with male gods. So when we forget that women are worshipped in our culture and we start abusing it, that is a problem. Another part is, I'll give you some data, people who are interested in data stuff. There is an organization called National Institute of Criminology. So they run an annual program which is called National Homicide Program, Management Program or Monitoring Program. So the last year's program, the data was very, they did on indigenous and non-indigenous homicide with intimate relation couples. So the men who died of domestic violence were 135 or 133. The women who died of domestic violence last year, non-indigenous, were 45. So men, be aware, if you create domestic violence, your chances of dying is 3.5 times than women. And another data is about indigenous people. And there, this ratio is 7 times. And indigenous people, who are just 3.8% of the Australian population, their contribution to national homicide of domestic violence is 28%. So when you make next movie, like these are the figures, numbers, and ideas. I think you use your talent in a better way. Another thing, what we are having our next meeting this Saturday about what we have done so far and all. So that's a review meeting. In this, so far we have found, as far as culture is concerned, there are 4 major things which are creating domestic violence. To counter this monster, you can't just address 1 issue, 2 issues, 3 issues, or 4 issues. You have to create an environment. So, what are the things which are disturbing the environment? Okay. So, stakeholders will be selected or will be put in motion only when we know that what environment is required to counter this monster. Now, first thing which is causing domestic violence, first major thing is the human greed. Second is the mental health. So the mental health programs are running around. We have to network them, which we are doing from our side. Third is the work stress. People are not being able to formalize their marital obligations. That's overworked or stressed, or they are countering a lot of other things. Fourth thing, which is a new thing that has come up, is that domestic violence prevention groups or people who are into this, that ecosystem is not very helpful. Right? There are a lot of untrained people. I shouldn't say this, but there are few corrupt people as well who have made this as a business. There are a lot of people who are giving wrong advice. There are many groups. So the ladies who are coming to us, or men who are coming to us for a solution, those people have got half-cooked knowledge, and they take that knowledge, they react to that, they act on that, and then they are in kicksuit. So these are few issues which I think as far as the environment is concerned, these are our experiences. But yeah, I would say that's male domination or those cultural things which are affecting us.
Thank you, Anish. I'd like to ask Naomi a question. Mahasan and the Hills Shelby, I know these are support organizations working with victims. So, as a law enforcement agency, do you have some sort of a program where, or how would you generally network with such organizations to provide a solution and curb this crime in society?
Yeah, look, as I said earlier, I think we're the first platform for identifying, in many instances, when domestic violence is occurring in households. But there are other ways for people to reach out to report domestic violence. And it's about through some of our platforms, like I mentioned earlier, WDV has. There's other platforms such as this where we can raise awareness, but in terms of a collective group of people coming together to work on this, there isn't a lot. And I speak about this frequently about, there's a lot of community groups out there are a lot of non-government and government organisations that are working in silos. And I think anyone who's heard me speak before talks about the concerns that I have about that lack of connectivity with the resources to actually tangibly benefit victims of domestic violence. So we have, through our WDV CAS, we obviously go, we have discussions there about victims that we try and put support services around. But, council obviously does a lot too, through advertising the various local initiatives and platforms such as the Sanctuary and other things that victims can tap into. But I think it is and I talk about it frequently, it is a possibility and an option for us collectively joining some of these resources together to actually tangibly benefit victims.
No, thank you so much. Look, it's good to hear that there are so many organizations that are working towards trying to find a solution. Likewise, the police, because they are the front runners, obviously. But it was a little discouraging to hear that we are still working in silos. And I think I might just pre-pone my question to Reena JTG, if that's possible. Here, just from your experience then, do you believe that the government is coming up with or should come up with certain policies or legislation which can actually activate this working of the law enforcement agencies with other community networks to actually make a difference and curb domestic violence in some way?
Look, I suppose definitely the government has put in stronger measures and policies and procedures in place to curb down domestic violence. Time and again we have seen, and we always go back to the government asking for more support, which is very well embedded and included in every form of legislation, let it be federal, state or local government. But the most important part of what the government is doing, newer and much more aggressively lately, is talking to not just the government, but non-government and the community organizations and the grassroots organizations. Organizations like Sanctuary, they should be more involved in the discussions when the legislation or some policies are being built or created. Now, these organizations have the basic information and know-how and intellectual property of what people really want. So it's very important to have that sort of connectivity with it. And earlier we were talking about that there are things happening, definitely happening. It's not that our community is not working towards eradicating domestic violence, but they are working in silos. So it would be very positive and fruitful if these organizations have a common connection or some kind of system. And nowadays we are pioneering in IT. There should be some ways of technology where every information flows through. And when I talk about laws, and of course with due respect, I suppose our law enforcement agency should be highly supportive and given the authority to act the way that they realize that it is deemed necessary at that time. Stricter reinforcements, and at times their hands are tied behind their backs. They're just held back, okay, this. It shouldn't be a paper-pushing exercise for them. It should be what they say and take action, because their timely action will definitely save lives. And they, on the ground level, know for sure how to do that. So that's very, very important. And coming from a cultural background, I also feel that Australia is a land of migrants. The country where so many cultures are coming together, it is about time that the organizations have more understanding of the linguistic dialogues and the meanings that it means when people are talking to each other. So the language-based information, that again will come in very, very handy. And I know for a fact that our police is very much aware of that, and they have so many different, everything that they get it in different languages. So same is with our community organizations. They employ people from every different language background to assist. So I suppose at the end of the day, the more we inform, the more we talk about it, and people should get out of their homes and talk. Talk to your friends. Do not hesitate. Reach out. If you're in doubt, ask. But that is very, very important. But that's what I would say. Thank you.
Thank you, Reena. Thank you. So really what I'm hearing is we've got a wonderful police who's helping society, and we have wonderful agencies as well who are helping the cause, and a very responsible government as well who are doing their job. But it's just a matter of all of them working in sync together in a way so that this problem cannot be just reduced but possibly eradicated. So that's nice to hear. I might just go back and ask you this question again, Naomi, you being the superintendent here. And following on with what Reena has just mentioned, would you believe you have any suggestions as to what can be done by these community support networks to not be working in silos and be working closely with the police?
I'd probably be a millionaire if I had the answer to that question. I'd certainly be out of a job. But look, I don't, to be honest with you. I think that there is so much passion and enthusiasm, particularly from what I've seen at the Hills in the 3 months that I've been here, for everyone to want to be involved. Now, there needs to be a connecting point for that. Now, whether that's locally, we look at it at council, what that looks like, I'm really not sure, but I think there is so much that we can capitalise on here that we are just losing at the moment. As I said, I've been to probably 4 domestic violence events this month alone, all run by very different community groups. If that doesn't spell out for you the fact that there is a lot of passion and enthusiasm, but as Michelle attests to, and as will Peter, you know, everywhere I go I talk about, you know, I'm happy to invest my time if we are getting tangible outcomes for victims. If we're just sitting in, I mean, this is an awareness campaign as well. This is about providing awareness, it's about education, it's about informing, it's about building relationships and building trust with the community. But for me, it's really about finding tangible ways to support victims, to be confident, to come and want to report domestic violence, that they will be supported by all these fantastic people, and a lot of love wrapped around them and support for them to go through that journey, because it is a journey and it's a hard one. But to answer your question, I think there has to be a connecting point, and I'm not really sure who's responsible for that. And there are, all of us can be, you know, obviously participants at the table, brainstorming, strategising on how we correct this problem. And as I said, without putting Peter on the spot, whether it's led at council level, I don't know. You know, locally, perhaps that needs to be the case. So, yeah.
Thank you so much. I'm sure if everyone has got their will and their direction correctly placed, we'll find a solution pretty soon. And I'll come to Patty now. Patty, first of all, thank you for that wonderful session. As you know that I'm already a member of the Art of Living and I keenly follow it as well. But in spite of being that, just a few minutes of that breath work that you just did with us kind of put me in a relaxed zone. I had to actually go probably, freshen myself up because I wanted to start talking again. So Patty, just a quick question there. Naomi mentioned when she was presenting earlier that alcohol is probably one of the main reasons or the causes, but she also mentioned that mental health is probably one of the other big causes that the reason why domestic violence occurs. And I know you have experience in managing or helping victims, but also working with a few perpetrators. And if we can potentially help them in their mental health hygiene, we could potentially address this problem at its root cause. Any thoughts on this?
I have many thoughts on this. I want to share what just happened just before I came to Australia. Our foundation has a program called Cities for Peace. And in a small town, I, with my team, was able to bring together several programs that positively impacted everyone who's being affected by violence, particularly domestic violence, but violence of any kind. So we had a program for people who have been incarcerated, many of whom which are recovering alcoholics and drug addicts. A lot of that times it goes hand in hand. And we had a program for law enforcement, including the chief of police, the commander, and city council, chamber of commerce, and the head of actually a program for women to bring safety and recovery to women who have been victims of violence. It was an interesting group. Everybody came from a different perspective, a different need, a different struggle. What I saw, and I've been doing this for many years as our foundation has been, is when you're looking at the perpetrator, they're usually victims of abuse themselves. They don't know how to manage, as I was saying earlier, the mind and emotions. So self-medication begins at a very young age. And then you get off your center. You're not in your right mind, and the very humanness in you takes a back seat, and the violence takes a front seat. And once people come back to their center, to their humanness, they realize what's happened. There's always a lot of regret, a lot of shame, and if that cycle isn't addressed, it will continue. It will come out different forms. And through the breath work, through the meditation, when we're able to release that and free that memory of the trauma and the past and bring it to the present moment, I find people can be very creative, turn their lives around for the better, and heal a lot of those wounds for themselves and those who they have violated. When it comes to law enforcement, I had some very in-depth conversations this time with the leaders of law in the community, and there's a lot of PTSD. There's a lot of trauma that you take in from witnessing this abuse over and over and over again. The inability to sleep comes up. Self-medication happens as well. And abuse could be happening at home. Because how do we find the off button? So we can get a good night's sleep and bring our whole self to the game, not only in serving and protecting, but at home for our family and those we care about. And then there were those who were impacted by violence themselves on the program. They were highly caffeinated. They were getting through the day with enormous amounts of caffeine. Trying to take care of others. They come to a place of safety, physical safety, but there was still some habits and patterns in the mind that had them in bondage still. It was amazing to see what happened, and we see this in cities all across the world, whether it's domestic violence, terrorism, and everything in between. Through the breath, once you, and it's so powerful in getting us out of the fight or flight response, and we begin to relax from within, a sense of expansion happens rather than contraction. Our intellect is no longer clouded with emotion. Whatever your role in domestic abuse, your intellect is no longer clouded with emotion. Your perception improves, your awareness, and the very humanness in you can shine through. We make better decisions, more educated decisions, more skillful action, and we're able to respond rather than to react. So when we teach this throughout our country, the country I'm from, throughout the world, we see the same thing. That people begin to be the best version of themselves. They've healed the trauma, that is the first step, and you no longer have to find yourself in those situations. You can not only recover, you can thrive in life. That's what has been my experience for many years.
Thank you, Betty. Thank you so much. So sometimes it's as simple as breathing, isn't it?
It's as simple and as profound as taking a deep breath in and really letting go. It's freeing your mind from the past, stopping the anxiety about the future, and coming to the present and building up the energy and the wherewithal to move forward.
Thank you, Betty, for your thoughts. I'll just...
Is it possible, any potential to have any input from the audience, or?
Yes, what I'll do is I'll just run through the last bit of questions and then we'll throw the floor open for Q&As, okay? Let me just go to Abhijit ji. Abhijit ji, I know that you are contributed greatly to the community through the fine arts. Your contribution in the music, in drama, theatre, and I know that you're a cartoonist as well. So, we obviously seen 3 films, correct? And probably it has been a fantastic medium to make society aware of what's happening in a specific topic. How do you think your other art forms can play a role in the general awareness of this problem amongst society?
Well, I think I'll take music first. And music by itself is a difficult path to create awareness for domestic violence, unless somebody like Bob Marley is born again and creates a movement out of music, which is very, very, very difficult. But I think the visual arts is where it is most impactful. In visual arts, paintings and sculpture, dance, theatre, and films, of course. I think they have the maximum impact on such topics. Visual arts are not, they cannot provide a solution to, for example, domestic violence, but they can produce the means of breaking the silence. Because under the guise of entertainment, a lot of important messages can be given to the audience, which otherwise is very hard to give. However, and I'm seeing this coming up a lot in the migrant communities, there is a lot of content being created, but I want to see more. However, having said that, visual arts and visual artists also need help. So I'd like to, for example, love to see grants, and governments do give grants for creativity, but I'd like to see more grants given to subject matter that are more related to domestic violence. So if there's a separate category of grants given to creatives and visual artists, I'm quite sure that more content will be created. And as you know, visual arts go a long way into the hearts and minds of the audience. And if that happens, I think we have a good means of support for domestic violence.
Well, thank you, Abhijit. Thank you for your thoughts there. And just a very quick last question to Chris, if you may. Again, for you, this is frontline issues. Have you seen challenges in terms of especially victims?
The home, because as you saw in the videos, they're not allowed to leave. They're kept at home, it's that coercive control. So that's where, particularly our command, we're coming up and using technology, using with the advent of obviously phones, where we can actually use a particular software program that we're trialling at the Hills called Good Sam. And we're working with WDV CAS, and I think we mentioned it, the DV networks, that we can, with the support, and it's all about support through organisations, non-government and government organisations, that we can actually communicate with the people in their home, get the recording, as ma'am said before. Our hands are tied unless we get evidence, and that evidence we can use recorded electronically using the video, and that's why, particularly when I worked at Auburn before, it's not a barrier, I don't think, if they have difficulty communicating, because they can give their version in their first language. We're fortunate in Australia where we provide translations of those, the court allow translations. So where we can, I don't think there's any, we're quite good with the Hills, there hasn't been any impediments to the language barriers. And we're just moving forward to going into people's houses electronically. Yes, Michael and his team and General Duties knock on the door and go into the homes, but we're also trying to use technology to do it where we can get victims to call us on their phones.
Thank you so much for your response.
I just have a quick question on law enforcement authorities. I think, according to me, we should touch to the grassroots problems law enforcement authorities should closely work with first immigration authorities, I think. Because when we get a visa, we get all the rules like, what are the entry and how you should be in the country and how you should be behaving. There should be the clause. If this domestic violence, whatever things happen, like for example, we have cohesive control now, this should be part of the visa because we have lots of students studying here. If we put as a part of the migration laws, I think that will solve a lot of problems. The second topic we should touch as family counseling is much needed. Government needs to put more funding towards the family counseling. For example, my husband is a chemical engineer. When we came here, he didn't get a job in his field. And I was getting the job in accounting, so he was getting down and down. He has been triggered with schizophrenia. And sometimes I used to feel, where can I go? What should I do? And then I had a lot of patience. I just keep on. Many times I used to cry, and I didn't know that time the community support you get. I think in 2010. And then I went to the police station, and I got once my husband hit me as well. I could have left him, or we could have been a big domestic issue. But there should be a mutual understanding between the partner, and more family counseling is needed because that's what's missing here. In the school, more funding should be go to the counseling. My daughter used to suffer, and I don't know, she don't used to tell me, she don't used to focus, and then the school was struggling to get the funding for the counseling. So family counseling, school counseling, in the schools we should have a meditation programs. These are the root, things we should really focus on. That's what I really feel. And definitely the mental health illness need a more funding. So how we can work together with the immigration authorities?
Yeah, look, I think, again, I know that you point towards the police. We can't solve all problems. We solve plenty, but I know that, when citizenship ceremonies are occurring locally that, I'm invited to go and speak at that, and we prepare a letter that goes out to new citizens, and some of that talks about how to reach out to the police, and it doesn't go into details about, the difference in laws around domestic violence, but certainly there's a connectivity to new residents and new citizens. I think you raise a good point, and again, I don't know that that's going to be a police-driven or a police-led. It's probably, federal, state, government level, where we need to think about potentially educating new migrants. I agree with you, but again, I'm not really sure that that's something that the New South Wales Police is going to be able to resolve for us, but I do acknowledge that it probably is a good idea. Equally with the counselling stuff, we, through our youth liaison officers and our domestic violence team, we're in schools all the time. We're educating about this all the time, that intergenerational issues. I don't know if anyone's seen the video that was produced through Kellyville High School. That, again, another compelling video where these young people have led that, and the maturity and the knowledge that they had to develop that video impressed me immensely. So there are things available, but like I keep saying, it's about joining the dots and really informing people about what is out there, and we need to identify where the contact point is, or where the central point needs to be for that. I've even spoken about, through the DV network, the need to go back to doing just small little generic business cards that have a list of support services on it that are relevant and local, that police can hand out when they go to these scenes. So WDV CAS obviously follow up victims after police have been there, but I think sometimes people don't want to pick up the phone now. They want to look at a website, or they want to email someone because that's a little more comfortable. So we've got to be a bit more innovative in what we're doing. And I know locally we're probably doing a lot more in the hills than a lot of the other commands are, in terms of what support we're providing and what initiatives and what innovative ideas we're coming up with, because we want to be a part of it. We don't necessarily need to lead it and own it, because I don't think that's our job. but we want to be brought to the table in some of these ideas, and you know, again, another example of some good ideas being raised that unfortunately I don't know. So
You can't be everything.
yeah, but yeah, you know, happy to keep on talking about this stuff. This is
Serious issues needs to be devoted.
yeah, perhaps.
Possible?
Yeah, just one last bit if that's okay, because we've run out of time as well.
Yeah. Thank you for asking this question. Actually, I've been working on this during the ceremonies, citizenship ceremony, but as a federal matter. So there are different matters, federal, state, and at council level. So what we can do today, if you are okay with that, we can reach at some resolution. Right? And that resolution we can take to the politicians in state and federal. Right? And give them some food for thought that, okay, look, this is what we have resolved, and this is what we want. Right? And then we'll keep on chasing them. The background is to do that. We are very good at that. And second is working with the communities or police or government departments. They have their own findings. Definitely we should respect that. But organizations like police, they should tell people like us who are running organizations or who are running for a cause that where we can help them. Like we can definitely form a pressure group if we are told that these are the limitations and this is what we want and this is what we can do, right? So we can't say if we are in in an important department like police that this is our limitation, but definitely if you have intent to work for society more and you can use your influence more, definitely you have got more knowledge than us, you have got more resources than us. Where we can fill in, we are happy to listen to that as well.
Great, thank you, Anunesh, and I'd like to thank each one of these panelist members today. So please just give us a round of applause to the speakers. Thank you for your time. And I'll just finish off by saying that we've had some great ideas that came up here today. And Pratibhaji, thank you for giving those ideas as well. But the good news is that all these stakeholders are here under this roof in this house. The government, the community networks, the community leaders, and the police. So ideas have already been thrown out there, and each one of us can take something back home and start working towards a future where we all can work together as a group. And given the fact that we are running out of time, I'll just take one question from this.
Mine's not. I'm sorry, but I'm imbued with this community and I'm impressed with all the people, and I really thought that the videos or the films were in themselves wonderfully self-explanatory. But we've all been reading the papers, we've all been seeing on television, and everybody's saying, what are the police doing? Well, we communally here know that the police are doing great things. But we, having been here tonight, have a role to play. We keep talking about government should be doing this, we should have more school counsellors. I'm for that because I've come from that background, not as a counsellor. But I think tonight was very alive. We've talked about, we've listened to each person's perspective, but I think the film said it all. It was the breadth of all, what are the forms of domestic violence? So we are now informed to make sure, if we weren't already, how we can empower other people to speak. I mean, you've mentioned Chip Bites, Kellyville High, Crestwood High, Oak Hill, where the programs are working. If you see any of the drawings that the students do, and that's a program that parents ought to have a greater understanding of as well. So I want to say thank you for broadening the topic. Yes, it was probably a bit concentric in terms of one particular cultural community, but it didn't matter because the message was for all of us. So thank you very much for allowing us to be here and providing us with the breadth of opportunity. And we've got faces now so we can chase you up if we want to.
Thank you again. And given the constraints of time, we will have to wrap up the session now. Yes, but I'm sure some of the panelists will be staying around and you can ask them any individual questions if you so like. So thank you once again, and Catherine, over to you.
Thank you. And thank you once again to all of our street. We do have quite a few of the actors, the technicians, and all the different people that were involved in a few of the films. They're actually waiting outside in the foyer. So we can invite them in now if you like. And in the meantime, I just wanted to just speak a couple of things. One is if you are a victim yourself or if you know someone, just remember to report it to your local police station or to Crime Stoppers or to, I can't read my own writing, but I was very impressed with the Empower You app, so do have a look at that. I really like also just the ability to capture and just go through them. It looks amazing. Also a special thank you. I'm just going to...
all the actors and tech crew part of the project, please can we have you on the stage? This is Pankaj. If you're listening to me, please come on stage. All my actors and tech crew, if you haven't left already. Munish, Preeti, Sumanji, okay, I'm taking names now. Rushi, Bindu, please come on stage. Who else? Kiranpreet, you're part of Fading Footprints, please come on stage. Aparna ji, Tushar bhai, Sandhya ji, Shom, Akshar, Taufik, Goman, Mamta. I would like to thank my better half, Mamta, for standing always with me. Pratibha ji, may I have you on the stage, please, for a group photo? Naomi? Naomi ma'am, can we have you on the stage, please, before you leave, for a group photo? Reena ji, please come on the stage. Mayor sir, thank you for patiently. All right.
That's it? That's it?
Thank you, sir. Congratulations, that was very
Okay,
well
look
done.
here, please.
Indeed.
Thank you, sorry. Please, in the Catherine.
Please look here. Thank you.
Thank you.
यहीं से कूदी मार लेती हूँ यहीं से कूदी मार लेती हूँ
Sorry, guys, please wait on the stage. Sumanji. Anybody else from Euphony Films team, part of the projects, please come on the stage. Sorry, sir.
आप क्या ओके set no. Okay, yes, one more. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. Who wants to talk? Nancy, you're good with the words. Talk about the films.
Firstly, thank you for having me. Were you here the whole time? I would like to say that brought a lot of attention to this issue. I actually did want to ask a question, but we didn't have enough time. It was about the South Asian community and how, victims, I guess, stop themselves from breaking the silence because of the stigma that's attached from leaving their family. Yeah, a good family in our community is synonymous with a nuclear family. Yeah, so a lot of women in these, that's just a generalization, a lot of women don't leave abusive situations because of isolation from their own community, fear of being that divorced woman, being a divorcee. So I think this event brought a lot of attention to that. It's raising awareness, it's allowing victims to know that it's okay to leave these situations, and look, society will keep talking, but it's up to you and other helpful resources to allow you to be in a safer setting. Thank you.
Thank you, Nancy. Sumanji, in the meantime, we also want to say and share your words of wisdom.
I've been reading a lot on a Facebook page called Indian Moms Connect, and almost every week there are sob stories from women who are caught in a domestic violence situation. It's just not on. My heart breaks at that. But what I find most concerning is the other women giving unprofessional advice to this person who has voiced their concern instead of being directed to all the other organizations, including the police. So that's all I'd like to say. We did our little bit acting in the film to carry the message to people out there, but there's a lot more that needs to be done within the community with the people who matter.
So if you don't know what went behind the scene of organizing this event, what prejudice personally as organizing as well.
We can't hear.
Oh, thank you very much for actually helping the health grant. I think this is one of those topics we all talk about, but Pankaj and reload to our WhatsApp because we're all organizing this event and you're so good and they come up to this place. Thank you. Thank you so much for stepping up and being our MC. You did a great job. The show doesn't go on until we have a MC. So we're very grateful.
Great job.
We were just trying to this I recognize
Okay. Looking at my camera. That's one
Thank you. जिंदगी दोबारा में वही बनाया जिंदगी दोबारा उसमें male victim. Alright, who wants to speak next? Preeti, Munish, Bindu? Sabko bhuk lag gayi. Alright, thank you. Thank you guys. Love you loads. Who wants to click a picture for us? हनुमान सर सर एक और फोटो ले अनिमा प्लीज जॉइन वाइफ को बुला गगन वाइफ को बुला प्लीज आ जाओ किधर अभी आ जाओ ग्रुप फोटो प्लीज अभी रह गए बस आप स्टेज पे करें नीचे अभी आइए Rennie, would you like to join us on the stage? Rennie, would you please join us on the stage? गगन तेरे को बुला रहे हैं My honor. आगे जाना काम ये बैठने के लिए थोड़ा can you yeah thank you squeeze in please sorry
So paneer?
yes say paneer say butter paneer
Butter paneer.
once more
Once more.
butter paneer once more
These people are smiling.
Catherine, thank you.
आप पिक्चर में है अच्छा लगा आप ही पिक्चर लेते हैं अच्छा लगा
Oh, what's 9 times 24?
To the brim. You can do it too.
Okay, so what date works for you?
Well, there's a date that's got nothing on it, the 24th of July. I haven't really looked into that day. Okay.
Do you want to do morning or afternoon? Where are you based?
I live in
Yeah, same. Yeah. So there's a, you know, the Charlie's Love It? Charlie's Love It was half an hour. How do you know?
Someone was talking about on Facebook the other day how sad they were that Charlie Lovett's going. There's going to be something else there, Mexican something.
Are you serious?
Yeah, I was sad.
How about we meet at the Hills Club?
Yeah, all right.
Do you want to do morning or afternoon? Yeah, I already sent you a calendar.
All right, send me a calendar.